What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Welcome, everybody, and happy Sacred Sunday to all of you. I want to welcome all of you that are in our Zoom room, and as always, let us know where you're from, and if you've been participating in the Awakening World this weekend, what stood out for you? It's been a powerful weekend as we've been exploring our relationship to our galactic family, to making contact, to disclosure, and all things ET, and all things really that are expanding our consciousness, because that's what the awakening world is all about. I also want to welcome all of our friends watching on Facebook. I see right away that we've got about 50 people on Unify and over 100 different Facebook groups and pages. Thank you, John and Summer Raymer and the Sign Network, for making that happen. And if you are watching us on YouTube, Alan Steinfeld's wonderful YouTube channel, or if you're watching us on Facebook, come on into our Zoom room. Come join us. We're going to have a lot of interaction today. We're going to actually interact with our audience, take questions, maybe even pop some of them on camera. This is a Zoom meeting, so people in the Zoom room have the option to turn the camera on, or if you want, you can just hang out and keep your camera off. But it's going to be a very interactive day, so come into the Zoom room. And the way to do that is easy. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com, and register. When you register, you're going to get links to all 3 of our weekend shows. We do a show every Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. And every weekend we pick a theme. Next weekend it's all about relationships, and so on and so forth. And we pick a theme and we explore it with amazing presenters, amazing luminaries, and even wonderful musicians. So come join the Global Peace Tribe. And speaking of collaborations, I've been having the great pleasure to collaborate with a longtime friend of mine, Alan Steinfeld. And Alan literally wrote the book on making contact. He wrote that book, Making Contact. And it's a great book. We'll talk about it a little bit. And Alan's brought in a lot of his friends and co-presenters and colleagues to be on this show with us this weekend. And welcome, Alan. It's been a great weekend so far.
It really has been a great weekend, and we've covered levels of the topic. We started with disclosure, which went much deeper than anything I expected with disclosure, with Whitley Strieber's really personal account and transformation. Yesterday was about integrating the cosmic or the galactic Federation, brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever you want to call it, with the human, and JJ Hurtak and Elizabeth Satoris and Jody Sirota on that. And today we have some of my favorite people. There's Suzanne Ross and Geraldine Orozco, people very connected to the phenomena. So it's been a progression and a deepening. And thank you for inviting me to co-host, Scott.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. Well, along those lines, I'm going to withdraw and take care of a little tech business. Would you be willing to introduce Suzanne and Geraldine?
Absolutely. Yes, this is one of my pleasures to do that. And thank you. Well, let's start with Suzanne, and then we'll get to Geraldine. And Barbara Lamb will be joining us later. It was a little early for Barbara, but she will be with us later. Suzanne Ross has been exploring the unknown for as long as I can remember. Whenever I met her was that 20 years ago in Sedona. And she did a special Sedona program every week. And she's doing these tours around Sedona. If you're in Sedona, call Suzanne, look her up. And what is also really special is she's doing a very exciting Ascension Retreat weekend on the spring equinox this year, 2022. I'll be there. Geraldine Orozco will be there. William Henry. And well, she'll talk about that. But Suzanne, thank you for all your beautiful work in bringing our community together and pushing the envelope of consciousness. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and what's coming up.
Thank you so much, Alan. Yes, you are such a dear friend of mine. And I do recall you, me, and Shakina going out into the Red Rocks of Sedona and doing some filming for our TV series, Supernatural Sedona, which can be seen on my internet TV network, sci-spy.tv, SCISPI.tv. And also, the events that I've been hosting here in Sedona for the last 8 years. I moved to Sedona in 2015 and right away started doing equinox events every spring and fall equinox. And it's grown over the years. And so now I'm having one here coming up in the spring, March 18th through 21st. And Scott and Alan and I will be talking about that, and Scott will pull up the website and we can take a look at that.
Well,
but it's one of the things. Go ahead.
Could you pull it up now a little bit just so we know what you're talking about?
Oh, sure.
Okay, but continue. Sorry.
I can do it. I can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Yeah, that's really helpful.
But go ahead. What were you saying?
It's one of the things I truly enjoy doing is having these spiritual parties out here in the vortex of Sedona. And I've tried some different approaches where it was all outdoors or it was all indoors. And now I've come up with a combination where all of the presentations can be held in an indoor venue for better audio, video. We don't have to worry about the weather so much. And at the same time, we offer spiritual journeys into the sacred vortex sites of Sedona. And so as part of our retreat, we have morning presentations where we have presenters, we offer practices, performances, and then after lunch, we give people the opportunity to hop on a shuttle and go into these vortex sites of Sedona. And there we perform ceremonies, sound healing, guided meditation. We tune people into the vortex. And so it's a really fun way to be able to experience the Red Rocks of Sedona while also having the indoor conference. At the indoor conference, we also have workshops. And so every day we'll be offering a couple of workshops that are hosted by our presenters: Egyptian Mystery School, sound healing, which is actually a course for training people in sound healing, and many more. So Scott will take us to the website and you can see all the
we'll go take a look at that a little bit later too and go through all the presenters. Great. And it's going to be fantastic. Yeah. Alan, do you want to introduce our other presenter today?
Yes, Geraldine. Yes, Geraldine Orozco. Do you see her? We can spotlight her.
There she is. Yeah, I got her.
Great. Well, Geraldine is one of the rising stars in our field. We've been talking to Marina over the last 2 days. Geraldine is that same quality of integration, of connection to these beings that are beyond what we understand as human beings, but she has connected with them and she understands a kind of DNA biological interchange that's happening, and also a conscious evolution, and also a spiritual point of view. So Geraldine, so happy you're here. Do you want to just say anything about your work briefly, and then we'll come back to you later?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor. I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm an NLP practitioner and Qigong master, and my work is to train people to navigate and work with their multidimensional body in order to navigate these interdimensional realms. Interdimensional contact and beyond as a whole organism. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but that's what I do. Thank you for having me.
Oh, welcome. It's great to have you here. And I've enjoyed seeing some of the wonderful videos that Alan's done with you. Actually, I'd love to just really drop right into the theme of today, which is integration and transformation. So it's always interesting to our audience to hear your personal story. So, Geraldine, maybe you could share a little bit about how you have practiced and are working on really getting in touch with your multidimensional self.
Yes, absolutely. In the bigger picture, it's been 18 years of working in this realm of personal discovery and seeking and asking these questions, and it's been a process. But initially, it began in 2008 when I began to meditate, and a partner passed away, and that brought me into the question of life and death, and then went deeper into questioning consciousness and our existence. So I began to go, I was not able to find the answers externally, so I began to go internally, meditation. And through the meditation, kind of began to unpack my own programming until I got to the root of things. And it really took me down rabbit holes into societal structures, into understanding our reality as it is. How do we agree to playing the roles that we play as humans, as women, as men, culturally, with the influence of religion and many other aspects. And unpacking that really brought me down to the core root of what this human experience is about. And there is an essential essence to the soul that it has no definition. And that's when I started to see things as truth. That's when I started to go beyond the limitations of our reality, our perceived reality. And in 2013, I had a contact experience, which was completely conscious. It was awake. I was taken out of my bedroom window here in California and taken on board a craft where I was shown all kinds of massive information, and also introduced to children that were presented as my own. And so that's when, again, the reality or the non-reality that I even created at that point was shattered, and I had to go beyond that. So that's how we started to dive deep into our multidimensional existence and question, what is truth? Who are we? Who are we serving? What are we doing? What is the role that we play? What is free will? And I went into deeper meditation years after that, and had a hypnotherapy session. And through hypnotherapy, began to channel a lot of information about basically, I saw the universe, the multiverse, and the levels and the structures of reality. And that's what really helped me kind of understand and continue to see and play a role in placing these things. It's been an awesome ride. I mean, the past 6 years have been acceleration of activation on many different levels, and everything from a near-death experience in 2018 that allowed me to see beyond the physical veil, and then coming back and then reintegrating again what I experienced in that death experience just helps you have a really whole understanding of what we are. And that's kind of where I am now.
Beautiful. I love so much of what you brought up, and it actually helps us to really establish the topic for today. So let's use the word multidimensional self. So I'm going to we'll bring Alan and Suzanne back on, because I want to hear from each of you about your own personal connection to your multidimensional self. And I want to hear from all of our audience that wants to write. I'll be checking what's going on our Facebook pages, at least the big ones, Unify and Love Coach Academy. So, what is each person's experience of their multidimensional self? And I want to acknowledge that there's a lot of different ways to get there. Some people got taken onto a UFO. Some people had a near-death experience. Some people got there through psychedelics. Some people have gotten there through yoga and through meditation. And for anybody that hasn't experienced their multidimensional self, you got a great adventure coming. And so we're all, we all have our own unique pathway to higher consciousness, to awakening. That's why this is called the Awakening World. So would love to read some of the examples. So please put it in the chat box, everybody, on Facebook. And I'm going to bring Alan and Suzanne back on and would love to hear kind of anything you have to say about how you've discovered your multidimensional self. Maybe going to Suzanne first.
Thank you for asking. Not too dissimilar from Geraldine, I had a profound awakening experience starting first in 1995 when I had climbed to the top of a mountain in Southern California in a state of desperation and suffering, threw my arms up to the sky and said, I am miserable in the extreme and see no way out. At the time, I was working in the corporate world, and in this moment of surrendering to a higher source, I was surrounded by white light, and a voice came through the light and it said, can't you see you've come home? You'll stay here and heal yourself and many others. And in that moment, I knew that was the absolute truth for me. Now, when I had a hypnotic regression with Lori McDonald, what appeared to us was that two beings had actually emerged from the inner earth who were blonde, blue-eyed beings, and they had a woman in between them who looked just like me. And they telepathically communicated that this woman wanted to walk into me. And would I give permission? And I said yes. And this woman walked in, turned around, and looked out. And that made so much sense to me. For one, I was born in Mount Shasta and always felt very connected to the city of Talos in Mount Shasta in the inner earth, the Telosians there. And so that was revealed that these inner earth beings had come up, which may have been the ancient Lemurians, really made sense. And also in that moment, I was spontaneously healed of physical and mental ailments I had been suffering from. I was also aligned with my true calling in the field of wellness as a healer in the desert. And in a matter of 2 weeks, I completely changed my life from being a stressed out corporate executive on the East Coast to a healer in the desert of Southern California. Then again, after I moved to Sedona in 2015, in 2017, I had a couple of friends over to the house who had already had Arcturian experiences, direct contact with the Arcturians. And so one night we just thought it might be fun to hold hands and set an intention to contact the Arcturians. And then we went out on my back deck, which is an upper deck here in Sedona. We had already seen a lot of strange light anomalies in the sky, but on this particular night, after setting that intention and calling upon the Arcturians, we stepped out onto the deck and immediately saw an explosion of bright white light. And then we looked down at the stairwell and the motion detectors were going off at the bottom stair, the middle stair, and the upper stair, but we didn't see anybody coming up the stairs. We all felt dizzy and grabbed the railing, and then literally turned around and looked at each other, and we were cold and said, let's go inside. It's cold out here. We sat down in the living room and we were all kind of disoriented, and we were trying to make conversation, but we were exhausted. And I said, I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed at 8:30 at night, but I'm going to bed. And I walked into the kitchen and turned my phone over and it said 12:40. And that's when I knew that we had lost 4 hours of time. The next day, we all felt really nauseated and still disoriented, trying to integrate, what may have happened and assimilate these new energies. And within a couple of weeks, I started grabbing poster board and drawing circles with 12 circles around it, like a zodiac wheel. But I knew that they were dimensions. And then in a moment, I just downloaded who I was being in these different dimensions, where I was, what I was doing there. And so this whole multi-dimensional revelation of who I was in these different dimensions, but also who I was as an eternal soul. And this name Anja came through, and I knew that the source was in the center as the 13th. And so then I realized I could do it for other people as well. And so now I offer multidimensional soul reunions. And the main benefit I have found for people is that when you merge with a higher dimensional aspect of who you're being, it actually ignites dormant DNA. It brings more of your brain online as you start to download these higher frequency consciousness from your higher dimensional selves. And also it resolves karma in the current dimension. When we look at other timelines in 3D before ascending into the higher dimensional selves. So I found many benefits to connecting people, myself included, connecting into those higher dimensional aspects of our multidimensional self.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Ellen?
So welcome.
I think that's a really good point, Suzanne, that when you connect to these other realms, you don't get so caught up in the dramas of this world, and the petty annoyances. It's a transcendent quality because you realize this is just one aspect of the life. This is what I've realized when I always had a great imagination, and people would say, "Well, it's just your imagination," but I don't think it is. What we call imagination is really a doorway into those other realms. It's an opening. So if you have an imaginary friend, well, I would say that's a friend. That is not just a fabrication of the mind. I say in my lectures sometimes that psychology has done us a great service by getting to know ourselves, looking at our dark side, going deep, but it's done us a disservice to distrust our perceptions and awareness and think they're just crazy or just a fabrication. No, by learning to be multidimensional, we realize that we have access to non-local realities. That's one of the things I'll be teaching at your retreat there, Suzanne, is remote viewing, which shows people how to access their non-local mind. And it's phenomenal that everyone can do that. I take a class of people who don't know anything about it. Actually, the less you know about it, the better it is. I just taught one in Massachusetts. This guy says, "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just getting these images." And he said, "Just don't name it. Just put it on the paper." And he goes, "Okay, I don't know why I'm doing this." And he holds up this picture. I said, "Don't name it." But the thing I had in my pocket was like a little smoking pipe. I just grabs off the shelf, and he draws this thing that looks just like the object in my pocket. It's like, and he's blown away, I'm blown away, and the class is just having an incredible time. So we are multidimensional. We need to recognize the value of our experience on many, many levels. And it's very exciting to be part of a community. I love Geraldine's composure that she has, because she has done the work on herself to evolve to a place of a wider understanding of reality. So thank you. It's great to be part of this family.
I want to riff for a moment on what Alan just said about the power of imagination. And then I want to read some of the comments because I'm really going to make today very interactive with our audience. But what Alan said about imagination is really, really important. If you read Einstein quotes, obviously Einstein was one of the great visionary, brilliant minds of our time, of the last 100 years. And he talks a lot about the power of imagination, that imagination is very important. There's a great quote from Bob Dylan. Somebody said, "How do you write so many songs?" He said, "I don't write the songs. I just write them down. My imagination is where they come from." And on and on and on. And because I've been, blessed to be meeting great visionary leaders from so many different fields through the work that I've been doing for 30 years, I want to say that almost everyone who we would identify as a creative genius will tell you it's the power of their imagination. Whether they're a musician or a writer or a scientist or a spiritualist, it's all about opening our imagination and not censoring our imagination. So thank you for bringing that up, Alan. And I want to read some of the comments coming in. We've got a lot coming in. I want to acknowledge all the people on Facebook. When you see me looking down, I'm looking at to the Unified channel. And so a lot of people there. Rick talks about his experiences with UFOs. But I'm going to read some of the comments coming in from our Zoom room. Saskia writes, "My multidimensional self, though exceptionally clear, dreams, meditation, spontaneous inner journeys, and through meeting and communicating telepathically with extra and ultra terrestrials." So congratulations, Saskia. That's very rich. Diane Moyer writes, "As far back as I remember, even as a child, I had unseen by many, that's a nice way of putting it, unseen by many friends. I had numerous visits with beings from other Earths, from other times. I've been blessed with gifts of seeing Earth's fault lines, submerged rivers, animal, plant, and human auras and intent. And a handy blessing is police radar." Diane, I love that. That's great. Thank you. And again, what a blessing. And I imagine what a challenge sometimes to be having these experiences and then having other people that can't see deny it. Isn't that painful? Isn't that painful? So even though Diane, yeah.
No, I just want to say, Scott, that is why we're forming community. We need each other to validate what is an experience that's not acceptable in the world. And that's why Suzanne and Geraldine and everyone else here are contributing to a new sense of reality. And when we can do that, the world will change.
Beautiful. I want to read just a couple more comments and then open it up to all of you for anything, questions or responses. This one you'll appreciate, Suzanne. George Noble, one of our regulars, talks about dancing through Boynton Canyon, and he had a fully multidimensional experience at that time. And then he also talks about Peruvian shaman experiences. Anna Ohm writes about instant manifestation, appearing godliness, infinite nowness, expansion. Whoa, that's deep. Diane writes, "I know that I've had my eggs harvested by aliens, and I've heard my alien children and spoken to them." Wow. And Mystic Abbot Jerry, we love Jerry. Maybe we'll bring him on later today. He says, "We are the keys to the awakening world." So there are a few experiences.
Beautiful.
Let's go back to finding that balance of supporting people by acknowledging their experience, but also not going overboard with somebody trying to create a religion or a dogma out of their experience. I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher, Bruce Joel Rubin. He wrote the movie Ghost. He won an Oscar for it, in fact. And he's a real bodhisattva. He's a very highly advanced meditation teacher. And he spoke a lot about that. He said, when we have a mystical experience, don't get lost in trying to interpret it, and certainly don't create a religion out of it. It was your own, a step in the journey of your archetypal landscape and your awakening. So I'd love to hear maybe what Geraldine has to say about that.
Yeah, I actually agree, really, really strongly with that, because when we are having these interdimensional experiences, we have to understand that, when we come into the world, we often forget we are coming into a veil where we are not seeing the interdimensional realm. Some of us are born with that, but because of programming, up until the age of 7, when we're highly, highly awake, highly activated, a lot of times that programming diminishes our understanding of this interdimensional realm. So we have to kind of spend an entire life of really stuck in the feeling body, in the sensory body. And we forget what it's like to experience and to communicate in this interdimensionality until we have an awakening experience or something that shakes us away from that hypnosis, which is our everyday life, actually. And we begin to see what is beyond that veil. And this is actually the exploration of our multidimensionality. When we are only stuck in the physical realm, we're only seeing the world from the first 3 chakras. We're experiencing through the feeling body, sensations, emotions, and all of that can be quite distracting. So when we open up to these realms, you are interacting on higher levels. You are going from your 7th up to your 13th dimensional plane. You're beginning to navigate in that aspect of yourself. And it changes the perspective from which you're looking at things, the filter. If you continue to see these interdimensional experiences from the first 3 chakras, survival, the separation, and the feeling body, the emotional body, it can really limit your ability to understand these realms. And that's actually part of the evolutionary process. It's the ability to go beyond the limitations of the physical. And in this physical realm, we see matter. We see matter as something solid. But when we go into these realms, we have to be able to transcend those limiting beliefs of physics. Even mathematics, they begin to change. They expand into different dimensional expressions for us. So it's this, a relationship with the interdimensional, I think, is essential to our health, because you are becoming friends with the unknown. And I think that's really what life is about, is that you train yourself constantly in all experiences, in everyday experiences, in interdimensional experiences, the ability to stay in a neutral point and be able to navigate these experiences without judgment. And this is what allows the body, it's a vortex. Our body is a vortex that spins faster as we continue non-judgmental experience. And this is what helps the body contain health. This is what helps us navigate into higher dimensional planes. And as a soul, in the bigger picture, through this little life of 100 years, beginning to prepare for that death in which your journey is continuing on these higher dimensional planes. So we have historically, since ancient Egypt, so many ancient cultures that talked about training ourselves to begin to depart from the body, or to be able to move in and out of the physical aspect of ourselves. And I think that's really essential to this exploration of the human experience.
This is the first time I've had a chance to meet you, and I'm really appreciating how clear you are in your communication about kind of these challenging matters. So one more question for you, and then we're going to bring on Omashar and John Martin, who are both amazing musicians, talking about their connection to multidimensional self. Geraldine, though, since clearly you've had some very advanced multidimensional experiences, how do you manage balancing still being effective in the physical plane, in 3D reality? Because I've worked a lot with people who have these incredible multidimensional experiences, but then really struggle to come back into 3D reality and even function. So are there any tips or practices you can share along those lines?
Absolutely. Well, the process of deprogramming, which is something that I teach and I train people to do, is something that assisted. And I think that it's the most compassionate thing that we can do for ourselves as humans in this human experience, is to begin to understand what reality is. And as you begin to deprogram from programs that cause suffering, limiting beliefs, and fear, feelings of helplessness, you begin to see that a lot of what we're experiencing in everyday life is really more so a construct. that is limited by perceptions. And these perceptions are brought down cyclically. They are encoded through our life experiences, through our ancestral lineage of our mother and father lineage. And we're cycling these programs, we're embodying them and we're expressing them because it's kind of a construct of what we believe reality is. However, when you start to deconstruct that, when you start to deprogram these programs, you see that you are none of those things. In fact, the human is a neutral. It is not an identity. It is not a personality. It is not attached to any of the external definitions that are created by a heavily compartmentalized reality in which we're experiencing separation, essentially in this three-dimensional plane. So when you begin to move away from that separation filter, that's when you can begin to navigate these higher realms with more ease. And you realize that you are this interdimensional being. And literally your entire construct of your body, you have 13 dimensional planes that are in and around your body. And what you're experiencing in everyday life is a hologram of all of the information that's being holographically projected from your DNA. And DNA is a holographic system of information that stores not only just physical life experiences since the beginning of time, your ancestral lineage, all of your experiences since then that are cyclical, but beyond that, because we are a cocktail of DNA. Within our human architecture, we have DNA from many interdimensional archetypes of consciousness within a 13-dimensional plane. So how do we navigate in an easier way the human experience is to remember that you are none of those things and all of those things at the same time. And this is actually what's really compassionate and allows you to kind of, easily navigate all these things.
I really love that. The way that I always put it is it's a dream world. All of it's real and none of it's real. It depends on kind of the perspective. And so while we're here to fully enjoy being in the body, not to be so anxious to get out of the body, enjoy it. The body is a gift. And I do a lot of near-death experience stories, and almost everyone that's had an NDE talks about how hard it was to come back into the body because it's so expansive being in the astral plane or in higher dimensions. But on the other hand, the physical sensations, eating a peach, touching another person, the five senses are so unique when we are in these animal bodies. So to enjoy our senses. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, actually, I'd love to add to that because I hear a lot of my clients say, oh, it's so difficult to be in the body, because a lot of us are empathic. And so we come in with these heightened sensibilities and we're feeling other people's emotions. We're tuning in, we're taking on a lot of emotions. And this is trained programming that we often experience due to trauma in early childhood, right? We don't learn how to create energetic boundaries. We don't learn about energetic hygiene. And I think it's essential to the well-being of mankind to learn what that energetic hygiene is about. But in fact, without this physical vessel, which is a fractal of infinite consciousness, you really will not be able to navigate or master any of the dimensional planes because, again, you are one. We are one fragment of all the human race, which is one organism, and you are one fragment of your own infinite fragmentation, which is experiencing multiple things on different dimensional planes, even yourself as, let's say, an Arcturian or this being or whatever it is that you're experiencing. These are aspects of yourself that you're meeting as you activate yourself, as you activate the awareness on these dimensional planes. So without the physical body and without anchoring source and this life cord through the body, the awareness, you are not. And in fact, what happens is the opposite. You actually can become, just like we're hypnotized in the physical body in everyday life, we become a host and can take on parasitic exchanges, things that will drain life force. We will experience fearful experiences that make us feel helpless and attacked. And that's very important to remember, that if you're having those experiences, we need to integrate even more so in the physical body. It might seem counterintuitive because the body is so full of sensations and emotions, it feels threatening to feel them. But that's just it. It's the mastery of the emotions into a neutral point in order to navigate very easily all these experiences, terrestrial and interdimensional.
Yeah, I just want to bring up one point that Geraldine said, is that the more you expand, the more you can embody, in a sense. So, and you can see it in your face, Geraldine. You have a sort of glow, a peace about you because you've done those levels of work. So can you talk a little bit about what the greater embodiment actually feels like in the experience of that?
Yeah, so once you start to work, first of all, it's important to understand what the human body is made up of. We have the chakra system, the 7 main layers, which help you navigate the physical plane. The first 3 layers are the ones that are usually filtering all of this terrestrial experience. And so this is where we tend to be, let's say, for lack of a better word, manipulated by our lower aspects of ourselves into a hypnosis through the feeling experiential realm of this human experience. So if we learn to control the emotions, if we learn to open and close the chakra system, we need to understand that we can actually open and close the chakras to help filter and disconnect from aspects of ourselves that are unaware. And in waking state, be completely aware of the chakra system as it connects all the way up to the 13th body. We are moving in the universe as these with access to the 13 dimensional planes. And all of us now actually in this timeline, we are more so experiencing things in the interdimensionality. That's why ET contact is coming into the mainstream. That's why we're seeing and feeling more. So how do we navigate that, and how do we embody this? It is the integration of knowing that you are this non-physical realm and that you're experiencing it through the body, and the mastery of the body is the mastery of the emotions. So what you're going to end up feeling is no longer an attachment to an identity, a personality, none of those things, not the external, not the illusion, none of that. You just become an observer. And the observer is the one that experiences terrestrial experiences. And as you activate your intuition, you can actually tune into the magic, as they say. You activate your psychic abilities, you activate your telepathy, your remote viewing. All of these aspects are actually core tools that the human has. And instead of utilizing survival, which is the more primal form of the human experience, you begin to experience a navigation of interdimensionality. And through telepathy, it is a more calm, it is a vibrational resonance that you become. And you begin to interact with this interdimensionality in a more fluid state. It is actually co-creation that you're doing. Rather than survival. And we are creation. We are designed for creation. So everything from the aspect of the feminine and masculine in the body, that when we have balance within those 2 life forces in the body, when they have that internal alchemical marriage, this is where we begin to access and activate these psychic and higher forms of interaction. So how does it feel to be in this state? It's a very calm observer state in which you're not reacting to things. You're not in survival. You have like an omnipresence of yourself and all things around you as a part of yourself. as opposed to continuing to see things as separate. And I think that that's kind of the key, is to, and especially galactically right now, intergalactically, we don't want to see things as separate anymore. So take a look at the aspects of yourself that still sees through the filter of separation. And we want to move in all those areas of ourself into unity consciousness, internally, externally, with our families, with our human race. And I think we see that in society right now. It's being expressed more so than ever. And whatever happens externally is what's happening internally. So this is kind of the best way to explain it.
I'm loving how you're explaining things, and so is our audience. And many people are asking for how to contact you or work with you. So this is her website. It's bayareameditation.com. bayareameditation.com. And when you go there, it immediately pulls up a way to subscribe to her. So I am going to subscribe right now.
Oh, thank you.
And we're going to hear more from Geraldine and from Suzanne. But while you're with us, Geraldine, anything you want to point out, since I am on your website? Are you available for sessions? Are you teaching classes? And anything on the website you want me to show people?
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I offer DNA reprogramming sessions. I also do holographic hypnotherapy. After my contact experience in 2013, I had the ability of seeing the multidimensional body, and through that created a really profound study of our bodies. And when I sit with someone, I can see and feel everything that's going on in their multidimensionality in 13-dimensional layers. And so I work with that information to deprogram what's needed to help the soul move through blockages in this current time. So if you wish to get a session with me, you can find that on my website. I'm very thankful.
And you do sessions both in person and in Zoom?
Yes, right now I work internationally through Zoom primarily. So you can visit me through Zoom. Yes.
Okay, great. Where are you located geographically?
Yeah, I'm in California, San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, great. Yeah, I assume so, since Bay Area meditation. So
Yes.
well, we'll definitely get to hear more from both Geraldine and Suzanne. But I want to introduce a couple of the people that are in our audience. And again, on the theme of multidimensional, connecting to multidimensional self, I'm going to bring on Omashar and then John Martin, both of whom you've probably seen if you saw our show last night. Omashar played music. And first of all, welcome, Omashar.
Hey there, how are you doing, Scott? How are you doing, everybody? And Geraldine, you're just words and transmission is removing layers from me as you speak, because when my being hears truth, everything that is not truth just gets out of its way. And something that I think coined everything that I was wishing to say in this moment is a fractal of infinite consciousness is that which we are. And that says everything, because I know that I'm a part of holographic reality, and because of that I can pick and choose through every aspect of creation that's ever been. And in the respect of music, I used to be in pop rock bands, as one does, and I got very unenamored with how every time I went to write a song, it was through my ego. And what would happen is that it always ended up having a relationship, oh, poor me, I'm in love with you, I've lost my dog, or whatever, in it. And I decided that I was not ever going to write from that state of consciousness again. And so I threw away literally all of the hundreds of songs that I've written through that consciousness, and I started writing through my heart. And I eventually, without any advertising, started playing at events around the world, and I've now played in 33 countries around the world, and perhaps several hundred events. But each time we created an event of a group of people gathering, it created this unified field. And the events were usually like 7, 8, or 9 days. And by the day 4 or 5, I'd lost my sense of self, and I was suddenly in this expanding self. What I found, trying to make this conversation short, in a nutshell, was something called I call it a song tree. And I'd be lying down in this expanded state in this event consciousness and unified field consciousness, and I'd see that I feel this thing just hovering over my head, and my mind created it as an apple, and I knew when there was an apple above my head I could pick it and it would be a song. But if I committed to pick this song apple, I had to commit to unraveling it and making it into a completed creation, a song creation. And so basically every song that I've written from that moment when I left the rock world has only been created from this unified field place. And so all of the songs that I create are now either communication with divine consciousness or divine consciousness communicating with me. And I could have written hundreds of songs across the years, but I've chosen only to write from these specific spaces. Scott?
That's a beautiful example. And will you play a little music for us later on today?
If you want, I have one song ready called "The Kingdom of Gold," and the songs they come. It's pretty amazing because what's happened with the pandemic and being forced, let's say, to or is it cunningly contrived to not have any gigs to go out to. I've been really forced inside myself because a part of when you perform, there's kind of a gratification in the cycle between people who are listening, and I didn't have that anymore. And so I found that I'd be doing maybe 8-10 events per year, and I found that I was just living on those events, and I hadn't grounded so into my body, and and without the buoyancy of the interaction of an audience, I found myself languoring in my own doldrums, let's say. So basically it's forced me inside to say, okay, what is real within myself? And the nutshell, the gem of of that exploration is that I found out that I'm a fractal of infinite consciousness, and I don't need to worry about anything because I am already that. I just got to stop stressing, stop beating myself up, and just get with the program and relax and flow downstream. So.
And that's what this musical piece you're going to play right now is kind of came from.
Are we going to do it now, or
do you want to? Well, since you just kind of introduced it, I was going to do it later, but since you introduced it, I'm thinking let's all take this moment as we listen to Omashar's beautiful music, and let's integrate what we've already heard. So much wisdom from Suzanne, from Geraldine, now from Omashar, of course from Alan. So let's just take a moment to integrate all of this as we listen to Omashar's song.
Yeah, I just want to thank Omashar for going beyond the social consciousness and bringing in something where will lift us to these other realms. We don't need another silly love song. Man, it's beautiful, but there's a frequency I think you're bringing in that is lifting us. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Let's see, I wasn't expecting this. But as they say, nobody expects the unexpected. A dream so old, it is born of our longing for a kingdom pure as gold, a kingdom pure as gold, told by the ancients is a story true of a new world that's birthing in the hearts of me and you, the heart of me and you.
Eden and the Holy Grail, sent from the heavens, a message through the veil, a message through the veil. And so come all ye who are cold and lost, to a new way of being and a kingdom pure as gold, a kingdom pure as gold.
Oh my God, that was so beautiful. Wow, people are clapping and saying how beautiful that was, Omashar.
I'm just getting, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm just getting out of the, I go on a trip every time I play because something takes over me and the nervousness of the human gets out of the way, and it's a different field here. I'm just going to speak one more second. This grass here, it's just an overlay. Is actually the grass at the foot of the Tor in Glastonbury. And so this is Avalon, the grass at Avalon, the photo of, anyway, that was it.
I love Glastonbury Tour. I love that place. It's
Archangel
beautiful.
Michael.
Well, hey, if I just want to do a quick plug, you can find Omashar on Spotify and many of the other places, or go to his website, omashar.com. Omashar.com. And Omashar, you're just such a wonderful new part of Global Peace Tribe. It's been great having you on board. And maybe we'll hear from you again later today.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to introduce John Martin in a moment, but I realized I want to share a personal story here. As we're talking about kind of bringing through and opening the imagination, I had an experience which actually connects to Alan Steinfeld. Way back in the summer of 1988, I was in Maui on vacation. And that was before I even had a computer. I brought my typewriter. I had a little portable typewriter that traveled with me because I was doing a lot of writing back then. And I woke up one morning and I was just filled with spirit, like really filled in a big way. And went to my typewriter and I channeled a story. I started writing it at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I remember I finished it at 7 o'clock at night. I took a couple breaks maybe to eat, but it took about 12 hours, and I on my typewriter wrote this story called Men in Love. 6 months later, I had raised over $1 million to make a movie out of it. And we made the movie. That's how I met Alan. He came on as our assistant director. And if I had known that morning, if somebody said, whatever you write is going to be made into a movie, I would have gone nuts because I never would have written that movie, right? I would have written any number of things that were more awake for me. But that was what came through. Life, however it works, wanted that movie to get made. And I happened to be the one who picked up the signal and put it down. And if you read what I wrote and what we ended up shooting, it's about 90% the same. We made a couple of adjustments, but it was clearly a channeled project.
Mm.
I got to know Richard Bach quite well, interviewed him several times. Of course, he wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull and many other books, and he literally, same thing. He had trouble accepting the money that came in from Jonathan Livingston Seagull because in his reality, he didn't write it. He channeled it from a seagull that came and talked to him. I mean, imagine how much faith it takes to trust that you're talking to a seagull, right? And writing a book. But that book has become beloved by millions.
Right.
And one last little note on
Yep.
that.
That's great. Yeah, love that. Yeah, go ahead, Scott. Yeah, go ahead.
One last little note on it is that he had so much trouble receiving the money. And he finally went to see Jane Roberts, who was a famous channeler at the time. She wrote the Seth books. And Seth said something very wise. He said, yes, it was channeled. You could say that all creative expression is channeled, but it still takes your unique filter to bring through the information, like Omashar just did. It takes your own unique ability to open your mind, open your heart, bring it through, put it on paper, and give it a form. And so to deny your relationship to this channeled expression is almost like denying God itself. So let's all remember the kind of those stories and allow ourselves, I'll start with what Alan said at the beginning, to open our imaginations and allow all of this to come through. Which is a wonderful way to introduce John
But
Martin.
I just want to comment on that 1 second, because I think that is such an important point, that we are channeling this divine flow. We're in a movement every second, and consciousness is receiving it. And when we become empty enough, we start to receive. There's a great story Elizabeth Gilbert tells about the genie and the genius. And the genie is this beings that come to us to give us our genius. And she has a story where she talks about Tom Waits. He's driving in a car in Los Angeles and he hears this incredible song and he yells out, "Can't you see I'm driving?" And so it comes, like, usually when you're really tired at night and you get these ideas, I have to force myself to get up and write it down because it's not the same in the morning. So thank you for that reminder, Scott. That's great.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Well, along the lines of opening our hearts, opening our minds, I get to introduce John Martin. And if you came on to our show Friday night, John was our guest on Friday night, again last night. He's a beautiful, classically trained guitar player who's even played for Jimmy Carter. He's that well renowned. But he also has probably as many contact experiences with our galactic family as anybody I've ever met. And so, John, thanks for coming on 3 days in a row. And I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts about how opening your heart, opening your mind, opening your imagination has allowed you, both in your creative expression as a guitar player and also all these experiences with our ET family.
Thank you, Scott. What a pleasure to be here today. It's interesting you mentioned President Carter. I actually had dinner with him in Toledo, Spain. I've played for he and his family many times, and we discussed UFOs over dinner. And that was 2009, I believe. And that was the impetus for me to try, because he was very open about his experience. And it was, I had a single experience at that time that had happened many years ago, and I shared that, and he was very open to it and wasn't judgmental. And so I used that lovely dinner with a dear friend, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they use music as a communication tool. And I went out on my deck and I just started playing guitar, music that I've played my whole life. Beautiful Bach and Ravel and Ponce, who's a great Spanish, actually a Mexican composer, and Satie, and some original pieces. And as soon as I did that, these crafts started coming in. A beautiful purple dome-shaped plasma craft with a pink ring and had a beautiful feminine energy came over my home. I had 4 crafts, two two sets of two in line that came, and then a beautiful cross and crescent shaped metallic craft that were so magnificent. They were burnished metal. They were at a 45-degree angle. They were the size of office buildings coming over my home. And it was just magnificent and beautiful. And the energy that they sent to me was just so wonderful. And I've used that to just create a lovely relationship with our star family. And Suzanne, I'm drawn to that painting behind you. My significant other, Karen, who I love very much, is a deep yogi. She's had darshan with Amma. We both have many times. She had an audience with the Dalai Lama, and she had 8 hours of deep meditation. And she was laying in bed, the lights were out, and this beautiful powder blue disc appeared on her throat. And that's the first time I'd actually seen a chakra. And it was an amazing experience, and she has been a very big part of this for me as well. So Scott, is just such an honor for me to be here today and to share my experience and let everyone know we can do it. We all can do it. If we have an open heart and we share what we love to the universe is so open and available to us. And I encourage everyone just to feel free to, when I'm outside, I speak with the universe. I speak with all of my dear friends, and I don't see them a lot of times, but I know they hear me, because thought is, it's on another dimension as well. And it's just a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's great to have you with us. Suzanne, it's been a little while since we've heard from you. Anything you'd like to reflect or share in terms of what you've seen in the last half hour?
That's perfect timing that you're talking about being out in nature with an open heart and a present mind to reach that state of expanded awareness. And so as I was tuning into the amazing knowledge and wisdom that Geraldine was bringing through, also the beautiful music of Omashar and John Martin's experiences, it just becomes so evident that we don't have to necessarily have a divine intervention on a mountaintop like I did, or, these UFO encounters like Geraldine and I have both had. We can just go out into nature and become very present in the now moment. And I think it was Alan who said, if we can empty our mind, if we can become empty enough, then we can connect into what Geraldine had called this magical moment. When I started to take walks out in nature and I saw Almashar's background, the statue of Buddha, and it reminded me that Buddhism is really the foundation for the profound awakening experiences I had, which really connected me into the oneness of all that is. And so I would head out in nature and I would repeat the liberating prayer, these beautiful Buddhist prayers. And in doing so, I realized that I was expanding my awareness and just becoming very present in such a way that I made a point not to allow thoughts about the past or projecting into the future, just to be so very present in the now, touching the leaves on the trees, feeling the ground beneath my feet, noticing the sounds of bird song. And in doing so, I would enter that magical place of the eternal now. And I sort of realized that eternal now can be accessed in your heart. And for me, it felt like here and now, and so here being this cross, here we are on this plane, present in this moment, but there's also this cross then of the now. And in the center is our heart. And so I would expand my heart, open my heart to all of creation. And as I did, it became so alive. I would literally have birds following me on my walk, these tall egrets I called angel birds. And I felt like I was telepathically communicating with these birds. I would come across bushes with beautiful open roses. and I would reach out to the rose, and it would feel like the rose was reaching back. I would walk along a stream and suddenly become aware that the water was liquid consciousness and that everything around me was this fluid, sort of malleable consciousness flowing. And I was part of that. And so just being able to achieve this profound sense of wonder, awe, and amazement at the expansion of creation and this fluidity of consciousness, which is all it is, and knowing that I was an integral part of all of it, just inspired by opening my heart out in walks in nature. And so I want to inspire the viewing audience to know that this is attainable for anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be this, life-changing moment or even a contact experience. It can simply be just opening your door and walking out in nature and feeling the grass beneath your feet and touching the earth and thanking Mother Earth for offering us this glorious foundation for our life experience to unfold here. And then touch the leaves on the trees and go sit with the trunk behind you and feel the life force of all of these living things and beings, knowing that it's the same life force that's flowing through your being is the same life force flowing through all living things and beings. And therein lies the oneness, knowing that we're all of and from the same divine source. And it's that divine source flowing through us.
I am so loving your enthusiasm and your passion. I brought all of our panelists back. I want to read a few comments and then open it up to anything any of you want to share. And thank you, Suzanne, for that amazing reminder. And it's inspired some beautiful comments. George Noble writes, I often see hummingbirds here, symbolic of the higher mind, according to some shamanism. I've also heard that hummingbirds represent the doorway to other dimensions. In ayahuasca, certain South American ayahuasca ceremony, the hummingbird is who they sing to. A lot of comments about connecting to the cetacean nation. I've worked a lot with Couturier de Coster, one of my closest friends, who was actually in Men in Love. And she worked with John Lilly before he died, and who, of course, created the whole term, the cetacean nation. And she would play her would go out on the boat, she'd play the didgeridoo and draw whales and dolphins to her. I watched her do that. In fact, we filmed it. And Saskia writes, when you sing or play music at sea, the cetaceans will come. Now I will try this for ETs as well. So that's a great idea, Saskia. Atira really appreciated, she says, I always love the energy of Jimmy Carter. George Noble writes, great hearing your song, Omashar, and thanks to John for reminding me that it was my strong singing voice that enhanced my ET experiences in Mount Shasta. I had to know that. And he talks about being a medium and all about sound and energy. So a few more comments just came in. Saskia, who's with us, writes that she offers workshops in which people learn to experience the subtle energies of trees and other living beings in nature. So give us your website and please put that in the Zoom room. And then finally, on our Unify group, it turns out that there's going to be a big event in Argentina. We've got a woman writing to us from Argentina, and there's going to be a big event coming up, and I'll put that link in which people are calling forth ETs. So I want to just acknowledge that we've got people here from all over the world, Argentina, Australia, New Zealand. So welcome, everybody. Everybody is welcome, and I always enjoy sharing some of the comments. We've got Jerry, the wild mystic monastery monk who goes back and forth. He's got 10,000 acres in Puerto Rico where he's building a retreat center, and it's an evangelical nation. So we love Jerry. He's with us often. So anyway,
I just have one thing to say. When you brought up the Cetacean Nation, I actually worked with John Lilly too. That's how I got to Haleakua, well, we're in Maui, by doing a film for John. They said, oh, you must go to Maui. And so the interesting thing about dolphins and whales is that they are multidimensional. They can emit more than one sound at a time. We humans do this word, that word, that word. They make sounds with their blowhole, their teeth, their tongue, and their nostrils. So they do that all the time. And they are also conscious breathers. John Lilly found out tragically that if you anesthetize a dolphin, they drown. They have to be awake at all times. They sleep on one side of their brain and then the other, and then their whole brain creatures. So that is a model for our evolution as human beings, to be conscious breathers, to be multidimensional, see multiple layers of reality. And they are probably the more intelligent species on the planet.
Dolphins and whales have much larger brains. So they're absolutely way more intelligent, way more evolved. And they've also been here longer than we have. My understanding is whales are the keeper of the history of the Earth. Mushar, I've brought you back on camera because you've got a few things to share about the Cetacean Nation and maybe even a song.
I do. A couple of years ago, I was at an event in Bali, as one does, and I was sitting in my hotel room, and usually what happens before a gig, I'll spend a couple of days just rehearsing and feeling all the people that are coming to the event. However, the hotel room was maybe a mile from the ocean, and I was just sitting down practicing my songs, and this song tree came along, but it was very different. And I wrote this song called The Way Things Are, and basically it was a transmission from the cetaceans, the whales and the dolphins in the ocean outside my room in Bali to me, and they wrote this song through me, and I couldn't believe it at the time, but I just wrote it down. And songs like that happen so effortlessly, and they happen within an hour rather than spending 2-3 weeks or months writing a song. And this one song came out of it called The Way Things Are. And am I highlighted there?
You are highlighted, and we look forward to hearing you.
Good, that's excellent. I could only see this thing in front of me, so it's interesting. It's a great exercise on Zoom when there's nothing there visual to actually expand my states of listening, so I can still feel that we're all connected, because it's a different environment we're creating here. We're literally creating a conscious connection around the world, and it's palpable, as our brother John is. And let's quickly do this song. It's called The Way Things Are, and I just have to go on to nice sound with my thingy here, which we are doing. Yep, got it. Woohoo. So, The Way Things Are by Intergalactic Whales. And that's not the one next to England, that's the whales, that these message keepers. Okay. What do you see when you're alone? What do you feel when you are by yourself? How could it be that you are here? Isn't it strange the way things are? Look at the river flowing by. Look at the colors of the butterfly. How do you feel about your life? Isn't it strange the way things are?
like a dolphin in the ocean. I can hear you calling me. Come on and you say, the water's fine, I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend, I was just a thought away. And there's a deeper love that's holding you, and it's here to lead the way. La da da da. Now that you see you're not alone, and there is no such thing as by yourself, there is a hand that's lifting you into the presence of yourself. Life is a tale that never ends. There is a purpose to each heart that beats. You are the river flowing by. You are the colors of the butterfly. Like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on and you say, the water's fine, I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend, I was just a thought away. And there's a deeper love that's holding you, and it's here to lead the way. La da da da. The water of life. Like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on and you say, the water's fine, I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend, I was just a thought away. And there's a deeper love that's holding you, and it's here to lead the way. La da da da.
I was starting to spotlight the different people because so many people are getting so into it. Oh my sure, there's so many comments.
Holy smoke, what a trip that is. Because when excuse me, I don't mean to butt in, but I'm just full of whales. And that is their transmission to us.
You have touched so many people. Just a few comments because there's so many that have come in. Atira is in tears, talking about how so much she's missing her connection with the cetaceans. Joni on Unify writes, oh my God, I'm so inspired. I'm going to start playing piano again. Many people are talking about how this is inspiring them to sing again. So thank you, Omashar, for your beautiful music and for inspiring so many of us. Thank you
Thank
so
you for the invitation. One last thing, this is on my album called Illuminate. available everywhere.
All right, so let's all support Omushar by getting his album Illuminate. And again, you can find him at omushar.com. Omushar.com. Geraldine, I'm looking for you because there's a specific question that we have. So there you are.
Oh,
I'm going to
yes.
pop you back on. Hi.
Hi.
So George Noble had a question for you, and I don't know if it's something that obviously you probably need to go deeper in, but maybe you can give a little bit of an initial thought, because I think it's something that might be a good. It's a question that I think many people can relate to. George asks if you could help him and others help with pre-verbal rage of abandonment. In his particular case, it's responsible for his hearing issues. He has trouble hearing. But, most people have pre-verbal issues where they felt abandoned or not nurtured or not taken care of because of their unique circumstances. So is that something you can help people with? And is there anything you can generally say today before you actually do private work with someone like George?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. Actually, some of the greatest trauma that we experience actually occurs in vitro, for someone to say that, literally in the womb. And it stays because depending on the environment that we're feeling in the womb from our mother and father, everything that they're feeling and experiencing, the child is also experiencing and absorbing. And it also is writing the first code of what they're going to be perceiving life as when they come into life. But the interesting thing about what George is experiencing is that we have runways in the body that interconnect the organs, that interconnect the different layers of the body and the systems that are helping filter life experiences. And one of these meridians, which connects directly to the ear, is the gallbladder meridian that goes all the way down into the body and interconnects also with the liver meridian. Now, rage, anger, feelings of helplessness, all of these internal organs in the center core, when they are overdosed with, chemicals through stress, anxiety, fear, anger, all of that begins to take the organism out of an imbalance, and it affects all of the systems that are interconnected in that runway. So it's very interesting because the ear, what we're hearing, the trauma is what we're experiencing, what we're perceiving through the hearing tool that we have. We have 5 senses, and all those 5 senses are antennas that help filter experiences. So all of these antennas are kind of picking up data and information, and depending on how we respond and react to them based on programming, it's affecting the physical body. So if you can reach the root cause of where this first trauma came into the physical body, you can begin to dissolve and deprogram. When we experience trauma, we have fragmentation of the soul. Literally, an aspect of ourself is frozen in that timeline. So when you go back, this timeline becomes a reference point for your entire life, and we keep coming back to this timeline and reacting based on the information that's informing the experience. So if you begin to work with the timeline and heal that timeline, reintegrate the timeline, you can begin to lessen the effects of these physical ailments. You can heal your body, and you can do so in many different ways. You can heal yourself from severe illnesses up to the most, let's say a skin rash. You can reverse this by maintaining and creating a balance in the system. You are reprogramming peace and balance in the physical body. So you can definitely do that, and I'd be happy to assist with this process. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we're going to kind of begin to wrap up. So I want to kind of go to different people's websites. So we just heard from Geraldine. Again, she provides amazing services, DNA activation sessions, and you can find her by going to bayareamediation.com. bayareamediation.com.
Oh, actually, it's meditation, Bay Area meditation.
Thank you.
It happens all the time.
Oh my
It
God.
happens all the time.
Did I get it right the first time? The first time, did I get it right? when I
I
presented?
think the first time, yes, you did. You did. Also, just by my name, GeraldineOrozco.com. They can also find me.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Geraldine. It's been really wonderful meeting you, and I'd love to have you
Thank
on
you.
one of our future shows. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I noticed that Christy Michaels is in the house, and that reminds me that tomorrow night I have the honor of hosting and working with Christy, and she's got a beautiful event, The Birth and Rise of the Divine Feminine. And she's got Antoinette Hall, a frequent guest on my shows, the amazing Nina Gray singing, and all sorts of other people. And it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. So you can get all the information you need by going to gospelofmarymagdalene.info. Gospelofmarymagdalene.info. For those of you in our Zoom room, if you have any questions, pop in the chat box and Christy can probably respond. But it's going to be a beautiful event at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, Monday night, January 31st. So definitely want to join you to join that. It will also be carried over several Facebook pages. So if you're watching on Facebook, all the Facebook pages that are on right now are going to be on tomorrow night as well. So that's going to be a very special event. I want to go to Suzanne, give Suzanne a chance to share any final thoughts she might have, and then we're going to take one more look at what she's doing, where many of us are going to be experiencing. So there you are. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, thank you. I so appreciate it. I just wanted to invite people to join me on my website as well. I am so blessed to be able to share my books and personal retreats, my internet TV network on the website. And I just wanted to invite my friends, many of my colleagues, including Ellen Steinfeld and Geraldine Orozco, other colleagues in the industry, Michael Jaco, William Henry, Brad Olson, I could go on, but they have shows on my internet TV network, SciSpy.tv. So just wanted to invite people to check that out.
All right.
Also,
I'll pull up iSpy TV while you're sharing again about the upcoming retreat. Do you see the retreat there?
There it is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Yes, I would like to invite everyone to join us for this spring equinox portal immersion event in Sedona. I'm very excited about the opportunity to offer this event and feel so very grateful that my beautiful friends and colleagues are coming to be presenters and performers here at this event. As you can see, this is our lineup, and you can see Alan and Geraldine on there.
I'll go to the bigger posters so we can see a little bit more effectively. But go ahead and tell people who's going to be there.
Yes, and so my friend Michael Jaco will be there, as well as James Rink. My neighbor, Maureen St. Germain, just moved to Sedona. My dear friend, Brad Olson. Of course, William Henry from Gaia TV. Rob Potter from Mount Shasta. Beautiful Geraldine and Alan. Marguerite Rigoglioso, who is an academic who's written books about virgin births and ancient times, and Celestine Star, beautiful galactic goddess. Deva Vidya is right here in Sedona, as well as Shakina Rose, and they both do the language of light. My good friend Deborah Thunderbeat, who is a world-renowned award-winning hemisync music artist. Renee and Anthony of Blue Soul Earth. Amanda Romania, who is an intuitive and sacred site tour guide here in Sedona. She has the Atlantis Metaphysical Center here. Frank Chili, who is a lifelong experiencer. The Divine Miss M, who plays the crystal bowls beautifully. Matthews Imhotep will be offering an Egyptian Mystery School workshop. Lori Linnae offers sound healing here in Sedona and will be offering a sound healing workshop. James Keenan is also an experiencer who's written many books. Dwayne Ollinger has a show on the Discovery Channel about Blind Frog Ranch and the paranormal activities there. Ryan Burns is also a paranormal investigator. Nick Hawk just moved to Sedona, is opening a retreat center here. Kimberly is part of MUFON, and Katie Grabowski as well.
Amazing. Yeah,
Thank you for
that's
letting me
quite a
go through the
lineup.
list.
Now, I understand that there's, if people register, there's a special promo code from today's show, which is Awakening 10. So when
Your voice went out, Scott. I don't know if you guys can hear me or if it's me.
You have frozen, but he was asking about the special promo code for the retreat. What is that, Suzanne?
Yes, so it's Awakening 10. So when you go to the tickets page, you'll see that you have a variety of options there to include just a general admission pass, which is required before you choose the optional events. But then we have the tours and the workshops and the UFO Skywatch, and you can even join us live Zoom. After you purchase your ticket and you go to check out, there's an option for a coupon code, and you can enter Awakening 10 for a discount. And also then the Awakening World gets a referral fee as well. So it's a nice way to support Awakening World too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I'm seriously tempted to go myself. My little mind is going because I have a lot of friends in Sedona. So who knows, Alan? Maybe we'll do a weekend of shows from Sedona. That might be kind of fun.
That would be fun, and everyone at that conference, and that would be excellent. I also want to tell you that Barbara Lamb is now with us, and she is really the grande dame of the contact experience. And do we have a little time for her to share, Scott?
Absolutely. I'm glad you made it, Barbara. We were wondering. You are muted, so if you could unmute, would love to hear what you have to say.
Yes, and wait, unmute, Barbara. I'm going to ask you to unmute, but we've been talking about, for this theme, the integration, and we've had some beautiful examples of the integration of these multidimensional realities with the human, and Geraldine, Suzanne, Omar Shar's music. Okay, you're unmuted, but that's the theme. So please share your multi-layered experience.
Oh, well, I've been at this for a long, long time. As some of you know, beginning to do this work in 1991, when I had my first experiencer client coming to me. And since then, it's been a few thousand, probably almost 5,000 regressions that I've done to people's extraterrestrial encounters. So there's a lot of variety that happens. And some of the beings, as many of you know, some of the beings certainly seem to be physical beings, and some of them seem to be other dimensional beings. I think the whole phenomenon involves quite a number of dimensions. I don't know how many, but people do experience sometimes beings that are very present, very conscious, very much there, but they don't really seem to have physicality as we know it. And then they might, at the very same time, in the very same encounter, they might have other beings there who do seem to be physical. So it seems to be quite a mixture of things. And then, of course, some of our own experiences as experiencers certainly seem to be physical. And for us, we sense ourselves as being physical. And at other times, we have experiences where we suspect that we're in our astral state, our out-of-body state. So it's really an amazing mixture of things that happen. And just yesterday, I regressed a woman who went back to some childhood experiences of being taken. Even in one experience, she was taken from her crib And in some of the childhood experiences, she was aware that there were painful things going on in her abdomen. And as the adult having that experience in the regression, she was able to realize that they were taking eggs from her ovaries. Now, her experience in the regression was that she felt that very, very strongly in a physical sense. It really physically hurt her. But then we went on with the regression, and we went on to an experience that she had just a couple of years ago as a full adult. She's in her 50s now. And the experience that she went to about 3 years ago, when she was flying on an airplane, there were some very tiny beings who came and sort of swarmed around her neck and her face and her head. And it was as if they were little spiders, but she knew they weren't. They were actually little beings from somewhere else. So that seemed to be a real physical experience that she was having. However, after that went on for a few minutes, there was another being there who did not seem to be physical. And he was there to help her and to get rid of these little pesty beings who were kind of like stinging her and biting her. And that being, even though not physical, was able to get rid of those beings. So that's what we find sometimes, is that there are extraterrestrials who take someone on an occasion, and they are doing things, and then it's as if a savior, ET, that may not be in physical form, but is very apparent to the person having this experience. Anyway, that sort of rescuer, savior being will come and get rid of the physical ones who are doing the physical processes and bringing the person back to normal. So I think that that's fascinating, the combination that people often have of the physical beings and the non-physical beings. But whether they're physical or they're non-physical, they're just as vivid, just as real to the person, whether they're physical or not physical.
Right. You know, I just want to ask Geraldine, who's had lots of experiences in this, is this true for you, Geraldine, that there's sometimes a polarity of beings in that experience?
Yes. Hi, Barbara. So nice to
Hi.
see you again. It's
Good
such a
to
pleasure.
see you. I'm
Yeah.
pleased to see you.
Yes, it's very interesting. And like Barbara was saying, I mean, the experiences are extremely varied. You know, there are infinite kinds of experiences. I mean, even in my work with my clients as well, we see similar little patterns here and there in which there are, in my personal experience, I haven't experienced necessarily something like a savior or that kind of, two different kind of energies. I seem to experience a wide range of experiences throughout life from the age of 5 up until, you know, more recently. And I have very different experiences. And I think what that is just the navigation of many dimensions that we're exploring. And its frequency, its resonance. And we can be also experiencing overlapping experience. There can be programs that I participated in that are more lower vibration, and programs, let's say in a hybridization program, that are more high vibration. So I think that there is this kind of dualistic nature to everything, because again, we're kind of experiencing a spectrum of vibrational frequency manifesting as these beings. So I think you're kind of experiencing everything, and it's important to experience everything, because without that, you're not really getting the full picture of what it is the interdimensional is. because it is just like we're experiencing duality. There's the same. There's infinite, manifestations in the non-physical. Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to just add a little bit to that too. Thank you, Geraldine. That was wonderful. Um, and that is that this is just from my own personal observation of others and my own personal experiences, that once, this is what I've concluded, rightly or wrongly, that once a person has an experience with one group of extraterrestrial beings, that seems to broadcast out somehow to many other kinds of beings. So I say that based primarily on my own personal experience, that I was taken in 1994, and I had actually asked for that to be taken by the beings for the making of a crop circle in England when I was just about to go to England for that purpose. I researched the crop circle for 27 years in England. I was really involved in that. Anyway, I had been told by an extraterrestrial through channeling that if I wanted to, I could be taken when in England, taken for the making of a crop circle. Well, I did ask. It took me a while to get up the courage to be willing to do that. But anyway, I did get there, and I did ask, and I was taken, and I had a regression done on me subsequently, and I know the details of that experience. So I thought that that would be all that I personally would have to do with extraterrestrial beings. But as it turned out, after that, there were 3 other experiences with each time with very, very different beings and for a whole different purpose. And in one of those experiences, a tall white being was explaining to me that they were taking information from my brain without harming me. He emphasized that. And he said, we're not erasing or taking away your memories, but we're making a copy of all the information you have in your brain about other people's experiences with beings from other parts of the cosmos. And then the person who was regressing me to that experience was Dolores Cannon. Probably most of you are aware of her and her wonderful work. And she, guiding me in that regression, started asking questions. And the being, even though this experience has happened 3 weeks earlier, the being answered her questions. And this went on for almost 2 hours of her asking questions and his giving answers. So his purpose in taking me on that particular occasion was, as I said, to download information from my brain and to broadcast it. Said it was similar to the way that you humans broadcast on television or radio or shortwave, and that anybody who wants to listen to it will simply turn into that signal. And if they don't care about hearing that information, they don't tune into it. And so he said that there are many other races of beings from the cosmos that are interested in who is having these experiences. And then once they locate, shall we say, recognize a person who is having these, then they go to that person and have encounters as well. So I think, and that all adds to that thought that I have that, once you have experiences with one kind of being, you probably will be having experiences not only with them, but with other kinds of beings as well.
Mm.
I
Thank you,
wonder
Barbara.
if any of you have noticed that sort of thing or have that perspective.
I'd love to give people a quick chance. We do need to finish by 12 noon. And I wish Barbara you could have joined us a little bit earlier, but I'm glad you're here as we get a homeopathic dose of Barbara Lamb. Geraldine or Suzanne, do you have anything you want to add to her question?
Barbara, I've always wanted to have a reading with you about my experiences with missing time. And
Ah.
are you doing your regressions online these days, or do you?
Yes, well, sometimes in person, like yesterday, the woman only lived 2 hours away, so she came. But I'm doing a lot on Zoom and Skype and even FaceTime. And a good way to contact me, if you continue to want to do that, would be to go to my website. And then there's a place where you can type in and contact me through the website. That'll come through my emails. So the website is Barbara Lamb Regressions, with regressions plural, with an S on the end, BarbaraLambRegressions.com. So Suzanne, I would be very pleased to work with you if you choose to do that.
Great.
And
Barbara,
Suzanne, I was able to pull it up. There it
Thank
is
you.
for
Oh,
everybody.
there.
BarbaraLambRegressions.com. So if anybody's interested in a very powerful, life-changing experience, definitely do that. And I see you're going to be on our good friend Neil Gar's Portal to Ascension coming up in June. He was on our show last night. So thank you, Barbara.
Well, thank you for pulling that up. It always helps to see it written, I think. Scott Catamas, I haven't seen you for years.
In a long time, Barbara. You and I worked together back when I was producing on the Strange Universe and Paranormal Borderline. We worked together. That was 25 years ago.
Oh, yes. And I think the Whole Life Expos, didn't we know each other there? And then maybe
we knew each other through the expos.
Conscious Life Expos as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm delighted to see you
there's
again.
a Conscious Life Expo coming up in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Will you be there, Barbara?
This time, for the first time in many years, I'm not planning to, but it looks like a really good lineup.
Yeah. Well, Alan will be representing us both.
Right. I will. Barbara, I just have a possible alternative theory to what you're saying, that when someone opens up to these things, it attracts other people, other beings. Could it be that we open our minds up to these other avenues and that we become aware of the beings that are actually all around us all the time?
Well, that's a very good point. Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah. And then as Geraldine was saying about frequency, there seems to be a connecting frequency out there, well, everywhere, including us and the beings out there, no matter where they are in space. I think that there's I'm not saying this very technically, but there seems to be a frequency that just spreads out, and the different beings pick up on it if they want to. I mean, can you imagine? There must be trillions of beings doing other things, whatever they're doing in their lives. And then among them, there are quite a lot, it's saved from our point of view, who do come here and have connection with humans.
Yes. We lost you for a second. I think, Scott, you want to wrap up, I know. And Barbara, So great to have you here.
Barbara, thank you so much. Unfortunately, your camera went off, so I'm going to bring on all of our panelists one last time just so we can say goodbye to everybody and see all these beautiful souls that blessed us with their presence today. Where's Omashar? There he is. And there's John. So, Barbara, wherever you are in the void, thank you for making a quick appearance here. And thank you again, Geraldine, of course, Alan, my co-partner, Suzanne, great to see you, Omashar and John. And I want to invite everybody that there's a really special event that I'm putting on this afternoon, and I really want to invite everybody to that. It's with my friend Eden Amadora. You all saw her. She was my co-host last weekend on The Awakening World. And as she and I have been talking, we've been talking so much about how important it is to heal the divine feminine, the divine masculine, that lives within both of us, or that lives inside of all of us, obviously, but also in our external world and our external relationships. And so we're offering a free online experience today at 2 o'clock Pacific time. You can watch on Facebook. It'll be on all the Facebook groups and pages here, or you can go into our Zoom room. And we really want to invite you to come into the Zoom room. I'll put that Zoom room link into the chat box just before we hang up. But please do join us. 2 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to go deep, and we're going to really offer some tools and some practices for how to heal our relational dynamics and really integrate our divine feminine with our divine masculine. So please do join us for that. Any last thoughts from any of our friends here that you want to make sure people know about?
Well, I just want to say, Scott, thank you for these last 3 days. What a beautiful family we have that is evolving. We see the evolution right in front of us with people like Geraldine and Suzanne and Marina and Omashar. We are becoming what we've always wanted to become. And you've personally helped me a lot to stay focused and conscious. So thank you. It's been a great practice. And I just want to acknowledge your dedication to the exploration and the invitation that we can be more than who we thought we were. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Alan. It's been really fun working with you. And thank you for bringing in all your friends, all these new people. I had never met Geraldine, for example, before.
That's
So, and it's great to see old friends as well.
Yeah. And Suzanne, did you have something you wanted to just say at the end?
Oh, I just wanted to thank Scott. I so appreciate you for all that you're doing. And thank you for inviting me, Alan. And it's great to see you, Geraldine. And I just wanted to send love and many blessings to all. Mwah.
And for Alan and Suzanne, let's talk in the next day or two about the possibility, because I'm booking my March shows, but that weekend is open. So let's talk about what it would be like to do an Awakening World weekend built around your conference. That would be kind of fun.
Right.
That would be.
Yeah.
And
Thank
Geraldine,
you so much.
any final words from you? You want to leave us?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you both so much for all that you're doing and for having me on today. It's such a pleasure, and I'm excited to hopefully connect with you guys in person at Suzanne's conference coming up now, and for the beautiful music and artistry and messages that you have brought. Thank you.
Great.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, you know, that music really was so powerful, and I'm still getting so many comments. Of course, people have really enjoyed everybody's sharing, but there is something about Omashar's music that just lifts us up so beautifully. So I'm hoping to see all of you this afternoon, again tomorrow night for Christie's Mary Magdalene event. And remember, I always like to close my Sacred Sunday show by reminding us that we can make any day and any moment sacred just by choosing to see the divinity in ourself, the divinity in our neighbor or our partner or our family member, the divinity in life all around us. That's how we make things sacred. So thank you for sharing this Sacred Sunday with us, and I look forward to my next connection with all of you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone.
I'll go to gallery view so we can see all of our friends that have their cameras.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
There's all of our friends. Look at all these beautiful people.
Thank you, everyone on YouTube, Facebook, for being part of this collective consciousness.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care, everybody. See you hopefully this afternoon.